I am so excited to welcome you to HMO Week 2017 on Property Tribes, powered by Platinum Property Partners. And I'm joined by the main man himself to launch this week. It's Steve Bolton. And Steve, we're going to have such a great week this week. And I think a good place to start with you to launch it is that HMOs are becoming an increasingly popular strategy for landlords in 2017. Why do you think that is?
I think that obviously all the interventions from the government have made it harder from a single occupancy point of view for the numbers to stack up. All the changes with regard to mortgaging and financing and rental cover and those kind of things. So I think people are chasing the yield, which HMOs have always really offered. Obviously it's a professional investment strategy. But I mean, it's interesting. There are more people doing it, but not as many as we might think. I had a conversation with Kent Reliance, one of the directors of that bank, and they were saying they haven't actually seen over the last year or two that much more HMO lending, particularly on their book. So I think we will see more people, but because it's a professional strategy, it's not easy, as you well know.
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of people doing it, but there's a lot of people doing it very badly. And I think what we're going to see through our video content this week is that your PPP landlords, they go the extra mile and they create a very high-end HMO, and really that is the way forward with the strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends what segment of the market you're after. If you're targeting tenants on housing benefit in HMOs, or students, or what we do, professional high-end key workers, young working professionals, typically between 21 and 40 years of age, sometimes a bit older than that. So it very much depends on your segment. But if you're in our segment, then you can have a race to the bottom from a price point of view, or you can have a race to the top in terms of quality. And we've always focused on the quality, not just the quality of the accommodation, but the mix of tenants, who they're actually living with in surveys. Affordability is number one, quality usually number two, but who they're going to be living with is also very important. So we encourage our partners to make their properties homely, give them a fairly unique feel. So it's not a standard, there's not a prescriptive platinum colour and type of furniture and whatever. Put their own stamp on it and very much promote a lifestyle. And I think that's a key differentiator for us.
And also quality of landlord as well, because tenants are increasingly looking to the landlord and thinking, how is that landlord going to serve me? Your landlords, I've been so impressed with the level of their knowledge in the content that they've shared for this week.
Sure. Yeah. In many surveys done by Spare Room, for example, on HMO, people that live in HMOs, they would rather deal directly with the landlord than through a letting agent or a third party. Because if it's your house, hopefully if you're a good landlord, you care about your property. And we've always had a philosophy that if you give a tenant property in good condition, you treat them well, they'll treat you well most of the time, and they'll treat the property well, and you tend to get the room and the house back in the condition when they move out. And I think it's kind of a common sense thing to do, and I'm surprised not more people do actually do it, because it's very much a win-win situation.
Indeed. I mean, HMOs is all about being a good manager of the HMO. Some inexperienced landlords think they're just going to buy an HMO and then they can kind of forget about it, but it's not. It's much more hands-on, isn't it?
Yeah, I think obviously there's two different sides. So if you're a live-in landlord just renting out one bedroom, that's very different. But what we do and what we're talking about here is professional HMO landlords that are doing this for a business with one or more properties, usually building up to a portfolio of them. Attracting the right tenants, giving them the right quality, the right service. I remember when I started out, the first thing I did before I bought my first HMO was I went to view 20 other rooms by other landlords, and we've integrated that as part of the due diligence system before our partners buy a house. And I just remember just being stunned at the poor quality, the way I was treated. I remember turning up, I was asked to turn up outside a fish and chip shop at 6:30 one evening, get in the back of a builder's van with no seats and no seat belts, and bobbling along for for 3 miles and turning up to this house that could just be described as a hovel. And there's two other guys viewing the room. The landlord says, there you go, 80 quid a week, stained mattress, stained carpet and a chest of drawers, and that was it. And I thought nobody would want to live in a property like that. And one guy says, yeah, I'll have it. And the other guy says, I'll give you 85 quid. And I'm like, there's some bad properties, some bad landlords. if you focus on quality, if you do it well, if you treat people right, you get the benefit of getting a higher rent. People stay for longer. You get less void. You get less damage. So it's
much more sustainable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, I've had the opportunity to visit some of the PPP partners' refurbishment projects.
Yeah.
And one thing I just wanted to really highlight was that they don't, when you go into your PPP HMOs, they don't feel institutionalised. They still feel like a home.
Sure. Yeah, and they are. Everyone. Somebody was just giving a presentation at the workshop. One of the partners giving his case study and making the point that every single property that we have is unique, very different. Some are 4 beds, some are 12 beds, some are 6, some are so variety of number of bedrooms, locations, size, style, ensuite, not ensuite, all of that sort of thing. And I think that's one of the things when people talk about the PRS and build to rent. Some beautiful buildings that have been built, but A, they're normally very expensive to live in, and B, they are quite institutionalised. You can't get away from, if 500 people are living in a building, it's still, it's pretty big place, and there's an institutional kind of feel, whereas we're buying family homes that are in desirable areas and creating, I'm very proud of the fact over the last decade, it's our 10th year anniversary this year, we've created 5,000 units of accommodation from 800 houses. So that's providing part of the solution to a housing crisis, affordable, quality, shared accommodation for people to live in, and keeping that homely feel. Because if you certainly in the student sector, if you ask all the surveys I've ever seen, students living in a big block, the halls of residence, or actually a well-maintained, high-quality, good landlord, smaller house, they prefer to live with 5 mates or 6 mates or 7 mates in a smaller property. So we just carry that same concept through, but to young working professional people as opposed to students.
I mean, to my mind, it also future-proofs the property, because it would still mean that when you wanted to exit, you still had that option to sell it to a single owner-occupier type person, as well as the option to sell it to another HMO landlord.
Sure.
It keeps your options open, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I would caveat that by saying, actually, if you're a professional HMO landlord and you do want to sell and you run it well, it's filled with tenants, you've got a trading history. We haven't sold many. We've got 2 golden rules with HMOs. Rule number 1 is never sell. Rule number 2 is refer to rule number 1. Don't sell them. And people will sell them for a variety of reasons. But I think we've only sold about 4 out of the 800, and that's been for personal circumstances. But my sister actually is developing a farmhouse in Normandy, and so she sold one of her HMOs. Estate agent valued it at 350,000, 6 bedrooms, nice income down in the south coast. And we actually sold it to an investor for 410,000 in a week. So basically sale agreed within a week, and the sale went through a couple of months later. So a £60,000 uplift, because it was bought by an investor who didn't want to do the refurb, didn't understand HMOs, wanted to buy a ready-made property with tenants, with a trading history. And that's one of the hidden benefits of HMOs, is you don't only just get great yields. If you do it well, you get a capital value uplift, which you'll realise when you either sell it, or if you want to pull some money out when you come to remortgage. That's obviously a strategy. But like you say, gives you both options. You can either sell it to an investor, if you don't modify it too much and it's still a nice family home, you could potentially sell it to a family as well. Yeah.
So looking forward to 2017, what sort of yields do you think HMOs can achieve?
I think it does vary quite significantly. I mean, we tend to focus on return on capital invested, which is our target is 15%. Right. So getting a 15% net return on the money that you put into the property. But yeah, typically our yields have been between 11 and 12% across the country, sort of nationally, rarely fall below 10 and sometimes get up to 15%. So that's really the target. If you're way below that sort of 10% figure and you're looking at professional HMOs, it's a little bit of a warning sign. It's a bit like, spoke to Stephen Johnson, who you know from Shawbrook Bank, fairly recently, and we both kind of agreed that if you're looking to buy an HMO that doesn't meet the new affordability criteria, then it's an HMO you shouldn't be buying. And for us, if the yield's below 10%, then it depends on your strategy, but certainly for our partners, we'd be saying, look, be very careful. Look at other properties where you can get an in excess of 10% gross yield.
Indeed. And just to finish really, Steve, trends for 2017, I hear a lot of talk about, massive HMOs. We're talking 15, 20, 30 rooms. again, very specialised for a very experienced hands-on landlord.
Yeah, I mean they've been around for a long time. Certainly in the north of England, the Midlands, where property's cheaper, you tend to find less of them in the south and London and the southeast, just because that sort of size of lump of real estate is actually very expensive. Although they do exist, but a lot more of the build to rent, the government and the housing minister I met in October, certainly pushing that a lot more, wanting purpose built accommodation. But as we've always said, you're not going to get those in a little village outside Derby or in a little village in Dorset. It's going to be the Londons, the Birmingham, the Manchesters, places like that where we're going to see that. I think there is still going to be a flight to safety in that stock market's volatile, savings in bank, pensions, property is still a safe haven. So despite what the government are trying to do with a variety of tax takes, if you like, with Section 24, tenant tax and stamp duty and those sorts of things, people are still going to invest in property. But it is, every year that goes by, it's more complex. You need to be more professional, more diligent, and to try and do it without support, I think is it's just a very challenging place to do HMOs, trying to figure it out on your own.
Of course, and I think, Steve, a lot of the content that we're going to be sharing throughout this week is to do with a very important aspect of HMOs, that is compliance. And your PPP partners have shared a lot of insights into that in the content we'll be sharing. But of course, if they become a PPP partner, they're kept up to date with this because it's constantly changing and evolving, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it depends on what your outcomes are, what your goals are. But if you're looking at this for a business to replace or supplement income and you want to get the maximum kind of income, that's really what Platinum specialise in. It's not for everybody. You need a decent amount of money to be part of the organisation. So if that's not for you, then the RLA, the NLA, other landlord associations, be part of something, whether it's Platinum or a landlord association. Keep informed by being part of one of the professional bodies that are out there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much to Platinum Property Partners for powering our HMO week on 2017, and thank you very much, Steve, for your support of the HMO landlord community. And I think we're going to have a great week, so tune in every day because we've got some fantastic content to share with you.